38-39 in Luke 1. Okay, it says, Then Mary said, Behold, I am the handmaiden of the Lord. Let it be done to me according to what you have said. And the angel left her.
Yes.
And at that time, Mary arose and went with haste into the hill country to a town of Judah. And that is where Elizabeth lived. Now, Elizabeth was was a relative. And it tells us that she was in a hurry to get to Elizabeth. She wasted no time. So if we skip down to verse 41 and 42, and it occurred that when Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled and controlled by the Holy Spirit. And she cried out with a loud cry and exclaimed, Blessed, favored of God,
yes,
above all other women are you, and blessed, favored of God, is the fruit of your womb. So when Mary went to go visit Elizabeth, she was pregnant. Okay? And so as we have established that she went there not long after Gabriel came to her, we can assume that it was during the 6th month. At least no later than the 7th month. Okay? Because God doesn't take forever to do stuff. Okay? So if we look at the calendar, the 6th month is, she got impregnated sometime the last part of August, beginning first part of September. Somewhere in there. Now, a woman is pregnant for what? How many months? 9 months. So if we count 9 months from the 6th month, it brings us to the 3rd month of the following year. Now, the 3rd month of the Hebrew calendar, oops. Yeah, I told you I need you to learn how to use this a little bit better.
You're doing fine.
The 3rd month in the Hebrew calendar is May, June of our calendar. So Jesus was born sometime in there. May, June. Not even close to December. Okay? So if that's the case, why do we celebrate his birthday on December 25th? Anybody know? And and what's really amazing is that I don't know about you, but I grew up thinking that he was actually born on December 25th. I mean, that's what we're taught. So when I learned that, I was like, okay, if he wasn't born on the 25th, why are we celebrating his birthday on that? Okay? So let's find out why. December 5th actually falls during the time of the winter solstice. And this is the time that the pagan Romans and the religion from Persia, the Mithras, whose followers worshipped the sun and celebrated its return to strength on December 25th. Now, December 25th fell between the week-long feast of the Saturnalia and the calends of January, and it coincided more or less closely with all those midwinter festivals at which the primitive people of Europe and Asia had celebrated for as long as we can be remembered the sun's rebirth at the winter solstice. Now, the Christians, more correctly the Catholic Church, felt that these practices were an abomination. And they decided they're going to convert these pagans. They're going to convert them and teach them about God. And they found that that was not going to be easy. They did succeed in converting some of them and got some of them into the churches. However, their pagan customs was not so easy to get rid of. So, what did they do? What did the Catholic Church decide to do? They decided to use their pagan holidays.
Right.
And that's how they decided, well, okay, since we can't get them to believe in God, and our God, we're going to use their customs and their beliefs and put ours in there. So that's how we got December 25th. They persuaded the followers of Mithra to forsake him and turn to Christ as the true light of the world. Now the church fathers sought to point the pagan festival in worship of the sun toward the Christian Son of Righteousness. And the church finally did succeed in taking the merriment, the greenery, the light, and the gifts from Saturn and giving them to the babe of Bethlehem. And that's how some of our customs, our Christian customs came about. And the church felt that by making the pagan festival also the feast of the Nativity, sanctified it. Okay? I mean, I laugh because I think, sometimes we humans love ourselves too much. Okay? And we think that whatever we do, and all we got to do is put God's name on it, it's sanctified it, whether God had anything to do with it or not. Okay? So, but that's what they did. So that the new festival should not be lacking in splendor and appeal, the days between December 25th and January 6th were caught up into one holy season with the birth of Christ at the beginning and the coming of the Magi, the three wise men, at the end. The days between Christmas and Epiphany became known as the 12 Nights of Christmas. Now, the word Christmas came into use through the medieval custom of celebrating Mass at midnight on Christmas Eve. The only time in the year when the church was permitted to have midnight Mass. And because of the opposition to the traces of paganism surviving in the Christmas customs, the church created special Masses to be performed at midnight, daybreak, and morning. Thus the word Christmas, celebration of Christ. So now we know where the word Christmas came from. Because Mass is a celebration, and they added the word Christ to it. We got Christmas. So till this day, there are many pagan customs connected with the way we celebrate Christmas, including the date it is celebrated on. At first, the church actually frowned upon the intrusion of paganism into the sacred season, but of course, they would never admit that they were the intruders, because they're the ones that went into the pagan holidays. Because the season, on account of the superstitious sentiments which were bound up with them, but it was too deeply rooted for prohibition. Okay, my mouth is not working this morning. There was a lot of things that were prohibited at that time, and they didn't want it to have a permanent effect. And in due course, they were annulled or forgotten. Instead of banning them, the church more often permitted their continuance, and directing her efforts toward investing them with a new, again, the word sanctity and meaning. While they were often made to represent higher and holier things, the older notions were not always discarded. Thus, the mixture of ideas, pagan and Christian, which became entwisted with the greenery of the season, the plants, and which more than any others entwined themselves about the festival of holy ivy, mistletoe, and rosemary. Okay? And that is the story of how we came about celebrating Christmas on the 25th. So we have a lot of paganism,
Oh, yes.
pagan things in Christmas. We use a lot of it. And it started way back then. Now, the next part of this message is how we got the name Jesus. Okay? And now, the name Jesus didn't come into play for a while. Okay? When he was originally given his name, it was Yeshua. That was his name. Again, there is no J there in their language. So, how did we come to get the name Jesus? Okay? Let's look at that. First of all, back then, when they named their children, there was always a specific meaning to the name. I mean, it's not like we do today. It's like we name our kids whatever. Sometimes we make up names that never existed. But back then, when a child was named, there was a specific meaning to that name. And the name Yeshua means salvation. Now, the first letter in the name Yeshua is the letter, if I'm pronouncing it right, Yod. Y-O-D. Okay? And many of the names in the Bible that begin with this letter are usually mispronounced by English speakers because that letter in those names are transliterated in English Bible with the letter J rather than Y. All proper names in the Old Testament was transliterated in English according to their Hebrew pronunciation. But when English pronunciation shifted to what we know today, these transliterations were not altered. Okay? Now, Hebrew places such as Yerushalayim, Yericho, and Yarden have become known to us as Jerusalem, Jericho, and Jordan. And Hebrew personal names such as Yonah or Yesha and Yeshu have become known as Jonah, Jesse, and Jesus. Not only have we mistranslated the names of Yeshua, but we actually mispronounced the name Jesus. Okay? When I learned this, when I saw that, I was like, okay, we couldn't even get the easy one right. We had to mess that one up. And I know people really mess up names. Okay? And the second sound, let's see, where am I here? Okay, where are we? Okay. Now the second sound in Yeshua's name is called, again, try to pronounce these. It's TSE-RE, and is pronounced almost like the letter E in the word net. And this is why I'm saying they messed up. They mispronounced Jesus' name, okay? And